Hello, everybody. This is the return of ASMR Diesel and Ethan and Now podcast. We are here with another point of interest video where we talk about narrative and everything based around that. Today, we are getting into the interesting topic of separating the art from the artist, a conversation that's been had more prevalently recently with the debuting of the new Harry Potter game and J.K. Rowling and things of that nature. But
Kales.
Kales. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get into all that. But before we do that, I want to go ahead and introduce my co-host, my lovely co-host that everybody is probably familiar with by this point. I have with me Lelouch Reed, aka Mr. Stank Meter, here with us, and then to the below us that you can't see, King of the Comics, Professor Ethan Murphy is with us as well, guys. How y'all doing, brothers?
Hello. Good, man. Feeling pretty good. I'm literally feeling pretty good. I was sick all week. I think I talked to both of y'all while I was sick. My voice is a mess. So
yeah, you sound like he was a zombie in Resident Evil.
Resident Evil. Yeah. Love it.
But yeah, guys, getting into this, we can kind of get into it and speak on the Chicago legend.
diving balls deep into this already. Okay.
I'm trolling, guys. For anybody watching, I'm not serious. Please don't come for us. Separating the art from the artist. Obviously, you have the extreme of somebody like a Robert Kelly, where he did the most dastardly, outrageous, outlandish shit, but also was very influential in the music industry. Like, dude was. It's insane how much talent he had for a dude that couldn't read. Like, you're writing music for other people, and you're making hits for not only yourself but other people, but you somehow cannot read. I don't know how that is possible. But that being said, do you guys feel like you personally can separate art from artists when it comes to an IP?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's kind of situational. I can't even lie there, just because I mean, certain things were during the time of Michael Jackson, when he was still around, and all the stuff that was attached to his name negatively that came allegedly out to light. Yeah. I mean, I was still playing Mike. I'm not there was never a time where Michael Jackson music was out of my rotation. But then you get Kales, right? And because the difference between a situation with Kales and Mike, Kales was talking about what he was doing in his music, right? And when you put into context some of the songs that he made, and knowing what he was doing,
bro, the Negro called himself the Pied Piper of R&B.
Yes. He was flaunting it in our faces, right? So I can't listen to his music anymore, right? Because that's just I just automatically I'll nod my head for a second, and it was then the words that he said will have a different meaning for me now, just because I'm thinking but you talk you talking about this woman that you're trying to do this stuff to, but how old is she?
Well, and that was, do you remember the interview there's an interview where he was talking to some reporter, what have you, and he says teenagers. He goes, "What do you mean by teenagers?" It's like, wait a minute, what are we doing?
I'm fighting for my life.
It is, but it's I think what you're highlighting there, Otis, is a really big point, in that the content itself, there was no separation from the artist that made it or what the artist was doing. That's even worse. There are some cases though where the artist is somewhat removed from the art on some level. Say for example, you are a writer. I'll go ahead and bring up this one. It's going to get out of the way. Mm-hmm. The problem with Rorty Kenshin, that guy was found having things he definitely shouldn't have, and his work though.
We for him specifically, I know we usually try to keep it PG, but I just feel we should actually. So he was found with enough child pornography that made them. That the police thought that he was a distributor of child porn.
But that's wild. you know how much porn you gotta have for the thing you're selling.
Yes. But I think they also brought up human trafficking. They were about human trafficking too.
And then just considering the fact that he was making a shonen anime Like, he's basically like the Candyman. Like, hey kids, you like that swordsman, didn't you? Come talk about him with me. Like I almost like see him like how what they tried to portray Michael Jackson as, but
it was for a different sort. But the thing about this though, like with so he was for those who don't know, he was a manga kin. So he wrote and illustrated. He wrote the story and illustrated the manga Rurouni Kenshin, right? That means I can understand people like, I can't read this manga anymore because I know for a fact, all this is all him. It's tainted. However, if you go to something like maybe some of the anime later on, or maybe even Samurai X, things that he didn't specifically write or touch, you may be able to separate it. But again, I understand. Like one of our friends from the show, Zell Nobel, cannot go anywhere near this IP at all. The entire IP is slated for him. Some people can. Some people can say, well, he didn't touch this specific part of it, therefore I can enjoy it. Or if you are if you're a person like, I don't know, Woody Allen or whatnot, where you're a dirty filmmaker, some people can't watch any of his movies that he touched at all. He was in them, or if he directed them, they're all sullied. Some people can. Some people can say, well, there are so many other people involved with this product. I can separate the two. Another person is Joss Whedon, for example. Joss Whedon had all kinds of problems with his things recently with the way he's treating women. There are lots of folks that are like, I'm done with Joss Whedon, all his products, but he made so many things. He made Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the entire 5 seasons. He made the Avengers film, couple of Avengers films. There are still plenty. Avengers 1. So it's maybe a harder thing. One of my favorite X-Men book of all time, Astonishing X-Men, it's like it's harder because it's not just his products that he's making. It can be that much trickier to separate the art from the artist in that example. Right.
Side note, how the fuck is Michael Bay still not on the chopping block for stuff when he's actively misogynistic and racist in a lot of his stuff?
I don't know.
That's
because
crazy.
He makes the city of Hollywood a lot of money, and
that's wild.
He speaks louder than the actual like morals in our country.
But I think it may be also he's not committing actual like crimes.
Fair enough.
It may be that you don't like.
I mean, when you look at some of the jokes and stuff he had, like the fact you have robots with like stereotypical black voices and then word to your mother, they're alien robots. Why do they talk like that?
Yeah, and I'm on your team 100%.
Right.
But racism and misogyny are not illegal. They're not favored upon. They're frowned upon. But
it's not wild to say, but the fact that that's true is wild.
I mean, it's wild to say, but it's horrible that it's true.
Right. Getting into something that I know people may have more confliction with. Well, we spoke about it earlier with that of the J.K. Rowling stuff and Harry Potter. We just had our live show. We got into just how impactful Harry Potter was to the lives of a lot of people, especially a lot of people within the LGBTQ community. I'd be interested to discuss. Well, we've already talked about it somewhat with Ben Formaker Olivias on how that affects him. I don't know if he's the biggest fan of the IP. I know he worked on it, but I don't know if he was a big fan of it at all. Yeah. But I know I've seen a lot of different documentaries and like videos of people from within the community that love that IP, has found some of their self-identification through that IP. But on that same token, you have the creator of that IP who's adamantly against your existence and everything you stand for and is actively putting money towards making your life harder. That's like, I can't imagine like the creator of the Boondocks putting money towards a bunch of Blue Lives Matter stuff, but it's something that Black people covet really heavily. That'd be hard for me to watch, knowing like I enjoy this thing. This thing had an impact on not only me, but like my culture in general. Mm-hmm. But me supporting this thing probably is actively working against me. Do you guys feel like you still support something like would you guys still watch the Boondocks in that case, in that scenario? Or
think of it this way: what if Akira Toriyama, one of the founders of blurred culture almost, if he's like, I don't like Black people, it's like DBZ, but I don't know if I can watch DBZ anymore. I mean, I have my clothes, or
that wouldn't be too big of a problem because a lot of these designer brands actively show that they don't like Black people and niggas still wear it.
No, but I mean, as far as the source material for DBZ itself, like it's the stories, the movies, everything I watched. It's Toriyama obviously was a big influence. So if he himself was like, I don't like y'all, it would hurt. It would definitely would be a massive blow.
I mean, you saw Mr. Popo originally, right?
Jesus. But to answer your question, I don't know. If I was in their position, if I was in the LGBTQ plus community, and I grew up with Harry Potter, and it helped me identify, it gave me some solace in any capacity, and then to have that creator openly speak out against me, openly oppose me, it would really, really hurt. I think in that specific example, I probably would say I'm done and walk away. To highlight Ben's perspective, he was the same way. He's like, I'm done. I can't be part of this anymore. Also, so.
Was he a fan of the series? I gotta go. I haven't watched the interview in a while. I know he worked on it, but I didn't know if he was actually.
Yeah, I think he was. Which
is even more wild because I don't know if you guys have seen. We probably haven't. I could probably send you one if you're interested in seeing it. But the depth that this is probably the most in-depth customization I've seen for any game ever. Like for how you can make your character look between skin tones, the different hair textures. Like they even have they have black women's hair with like a head wrap on there. Mm-hmm. You can tell people within the community that wanted that diversity and seeing themselves in those games worked on it. So this is something
that's something else. Then it's when the art transcends the artist as far as it becomes something else altogether. Like, I mean, Star Wars, for example. I mean,
it's just me like playing on that point. Like you have like something where people within this community make this thing for you, and they show this much attention to detail, but you still have the actual creator actively working against you.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. It almost seems like it's where the creation goes beyond the creator, where the creator isn't even really touching the creation anymore, like Star Wars. Like Lucas had nothing to do with. My favorite part of Star Wars is actually the Clone Wars animated series in its capacity, right?
Right. The best part of Star Wars.
Right. The three of us can pretty much agree on that. Lucas, I don't think he really had anything to do with that.
Top 5 animated series of all time.
At least. So I think that's kind of the example. I think this new game coming out, what's it called again? Hogwarts?
Hogwarts Legacy.
Hogwarts Legacy, right? Hogwarts Legacy. From what Ben said too, it was kind of like an idea. Maybe she had something, but she really didn't have anything to do with it.
They kept her out of it.
But it's an IP. Yeah, they kept her out of it. It's an IP, and they try to separate themselves from it, I think, too. But it's an IP that she still does get money from. It's an IP she still did create. So I can completely understand if someone that's in the community is like, yeah, I'm done. Or even someone that just like is an ally of that community is like, yeah, I'm done with this. I don't know.
It's hilarious because like the fans are like trying to annex her out of it on her own creation.
Yeah.
Like even the stuff that like with the like the Extraordinary Beast movies, like those bombed. One, because they were terrible. Then two, like I know we spoke about it earlier in our live show about it being a flash in a bottle. Like watching those and reading her other stuff, or even like the continued books that she continued to write in that verse, or how she tries to retcon stuff on Twitter after the fact, that shows just how much of a flash in a bottle that stuff was. That stuff was even coherent enough to garner that much attention, because she is not a good writer whatsoever to me.
It's a weird scenario because she has different pen names in her other, and I tried looking at some of her other books that other stuff she tried doing, and it's not terrible, but from a writer's standpoint, like I do consider myself a writer, it's like there are things you're doing here with this work that's kind of questionable. And it's weird because like Harry Potter, I still respected the books themselves more or less, even though I'm not the biggest fan of them. It's almost like she forgot some of the things she was doing in that.
She went back and tried to like she literally created a whole character on Twitter. She was like, there is this character who was a black Hufflepuff person that was in the house at the time Harry was around, and like gave them a whole backstory on Twitter. Which, look, if you are a creator and you created a completely white, hetero, cis story, that's fine. You did that. You don't need to then try to make that inclusive, or if you want to try to do something, make something new that is not that.
Yeah.
But because that's her only successful thing, she's like trying to ride that out as much as possible.
Yeah, and that's kind of sad too. And we're not trying to just beat on JK all.
I will. Fuck her.
Yeah, fair enough. But I guess the bigger question I have then is, like for you personally, you obviously have beef with JK, but I can't imagine you separating yourself from Harry Potter. That franchise still seems to be too integral to your.
Yeah, I'll be completely honest and transparent. It's a lot more. It's not as difficult for me for the fact of I don't like, for the longest time, like I've become more educated on the plight of the LGBTQ community for like very recently, like going to college, because again, obviously in high school there weren't that many people that I knew that identified amongst that community, and if they did, they weren't public about it. So similar vein of how we have a lot of white people that just don't know shit about black people because you're not in proxemic area of them, you just don't understand the issues. So I had to go work to educate myself on that. And even I didn't even know JK had the stance she did until I got to college and met more people that were openly talking about such thing. So I'm kind of skewed because this IP influenced so much of my life, and now I'm like, well, damn, this thing is hurting somebody else. So again, part of the reason why I told Ben during our show, I'm not going to I promise not to publicly endorse this thing or even discuss it at all. Like, I'm not making a single post about it. I'm not sharing anything else about it for that reason in particular.
Yeah.
But the selfish human being in me does want to have that for my nostalgia factor. Like, especially knowing that people that created it put so much love into it to make it, even though it's affecting them by giving money in her pockets, but they made this with so much love towards that community. A lot of them were were members of the community. It's tough, especially when it comes to a lot of the bigger stuff, like the fan fictions that fans make that are honestly better than the original source material. It's tough. It's a tough thing because there's
I get that.
Like you said, kind of like with your Ruri Kenshin point, if she was really involved in a lot of the stuff going on, I'd probably have an easier time nixing it, which it probably wouldn't be good. But the fact that so many people had a hand in this and like actively tried to keep her away from it as much as possible, I don't feel as bad actually putting my money towards it.
I feel you. So let me ask you this one then, before we run out of time here. It's a big one for you, Otis, and for Charlie.
Yeah.
Obviously, with everything that happened with William Cosby, that show, the Cosby Show, influenced me massively as a kid growing up in the 80s. My family watched it every week and everything else. And he was a huge influence as a comedian to me. And when everything came out about him, that hurt. Like, I cannot watch that show or listen to any of his comedy or watch any of his comedy now. That's an example of I cannot separate that art from that artist. Do you think that is something where, because he's very much a part of it, you see him in all the stuff he does. Do you think that is something that I should be able to get past? Do you think I can look at it and say, well, it's just a character he's playing? That's not. Is that possible for someone to be able to do, to separate those two?
I personally say you shouldn't have to, and I say that off the basis of, as human beings, you associate the content you consume to memories. So let's say one of your biggest memories of your life was you sitting down with your family and watching that show, and some of the best moments you remember with your family was that show's a part of it. Although the creator was a horrible human being, that moment in time and what caused that moment in time means a lot to you. That's like my family with R. Kelly. Like, I remember Step in the Name of Love, being like dancing in the living room with my grandparents, or like seeing my grandpa act goofy with that music on. And it's like I actively have those songs in my R&B playlist still. I will literally listen to like 2 seconds and skip it. But some part of me can't bring it for me to take it out, even though I don't listen to it, because it still has that nostalgic emotional connection with somebody I love. Now, them being even more so now that person's gone and I can't share any more moments with that person. All I have is those moments. Yeah.
No, that's the tragedy right there. That's the tragedy, is that the art oftentimes, I as a creator, you guys are creators as well. I hope that what we create does live beyond us, and it takes a life on of its own, right? And it influences people to that much more, to a greater extent, well after we're gone. The art that these creators, as evil as they may be, did give us some joy, and that joy can't be taken. It may be tainted in some way, but like you said, Charlie, I agree. It's like nothing can take away those memories I had with my family, and I love them. I cherish them. So it's a horrible thing to think that it can almost be altered or affected, but on some level, they're still yours to have.
Otis, what about shoes? We know, like you said publicly multiple times, that nostalgia isn't really a big dominating factor in your life and how you go about things. Is it easier for you since you're not as nostalgic as maybe most people?
I mean, again, it more so depends. Like I said at the opening of the show, it's case by case. Like, so if it's a thing that I'd have to be reminded of, like the grossness of that person, then then sure, I can still enjoy it to some degree. But I mean, like R. Kelly's music is completely tarnished for me at this point. Like, I won't even turn it on. I won't search his name. on Spotify or any other music, like I'll talk about him, but like I won't like I have no positivity for him, right? That's one example. But opposite example, like with everything with JK, like I still might end up getting this Hogwarts game, but
really,
yeah, I still might end up getting it just because I mean, being able to have that much, like I'm for sure gonna be like, this is part of my personality, right? Like I want to make a dark wizard. I want to be able to go through that world and just like Avada Kedavra
same
everybody, right? Like, so I mean, like obviously I'm not a fan of JK in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I've even before it was a popular thing to critique her writing, I critiqued it. Like even as a kid, I was just like, yeah, it's okay. Like their portrayal of
imagine Lil Otis.
I definitely can.
Yeah, their portrayal of magic was never like that good to me. Like I grew up on the Lord of the Rings stuff. Like my parents forced me to read the Tolkien books, and of course, seeing those movies, like Legolas, it has influenced me more than probably any other character in fiction. Like,
bro, I had to meet your parents at some point because that's insane that they like were that in tune with shit like that to make you read something like that.
No, they just said, "Oh, book with a lot of pages here." It wasn't like like, "Oh, I like the messaging of this Harry Potter book." No, you don't have enough to do. This is going to take some time. There you go.
Books.
Yeah. But yeah, like I just get case by case, honestly. Like I can't say that I am for sure one way or another. And I honestly don't think that as a person you should be ever that way. Like you should just like, oh, this thing happened, this is how I react to it every time, and there's no other way around it. Like I feel like if you are that type of person, you are probably an unevolved person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but, I agree. Yeah, I think we are very quick to judge, and we're very quick to condemn. And I think we should be a little slower in that regard as well. Yeah, so I'm with you in that. And I think it's like we said before, with certain people, certain actions, it's like, yeah, that's inexcusable. And how much influence they have on the products they create, it's like I just can't separate the two. But sometimes if it's a person that makes a mistake and does something a little foolish, and they're loosely associated with something, it's easier to get past it and still enjoy the art. And I think so. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Plus, we're hypocrites in nature. This is an example, kind of slightly off topic, but relevant to an extent. When the passing of Kobe Bryant happened, right? The notion that went around the basketball community and the basketball world was that no longer will we just debate for the sake of tearing people down or like debating hard. We will just appreciate the talent while it's here. Like people were saying, we're done with the GOAT debates and all that. We just want to enjoy it here. And then not 2 years later, are people still back on TV milking the GOAT debate between Jordan and LeBron? People are still literally people having issues with this man saying that he's going to help his son get into school because they just don't like him as a in this 90% of the time, it's if you go back and peel back the layers, it's because he beat your favorite team at one point in time and stopped off in a ring. But and again, people had all this unanimous love and said that one thing, and then right back to business as usual. Listen to stuff like that.
I agree. I mean, part of what you're saying too, because I agree with that. I think we're all hypocritical in some way. We all make mistakes. We all do things. If there was a camera on us all the day, 24/7, seeing what we do, we'd all be ashamed of some capacity. We all do things we're not proud of in our life too. So yeah, for us to, like I said, as far as us condemning someone else, it's very easy to do that, and we want to jump on that bandwagon very quickly. It's a horror world we're in. And I think sometimes we should be able to forgive certain things, as far as like if you make a mistake. Okay, you made a mistake. If you want to be forgiven for it, okay. You were not forever damned, in my opinion.
All right. Okay, so do you guys have any other closing remarks on this top. I think it's the longest POI so far. Well, unless you want to count the smile, I guess. But I don't know if we count that.
Yeah, should we count that one? But yeah. Was that a POI?
I mean, it was more of a rant than a POI, honestly.
Yeah.
I still feel kind of bad about tearing that movie apart because it wasn't as bad. We had bad days and then saw a bad movie and ripped that thing apart like it was my evolution.
What's funny is I saw last night I was hanging out with Cito, spread of the show Cito, and our boy James. And James like, yo, man, those commercials were great. That movie was bad. I was like, yeah.
I just imagine like Otis in the distance, like Palpatine. Everything is proceeding as I had foreseen. Yes. Oh man, I told you, Star Wars, man. But anyway,
I've been gaining more and more respect for Palpatine as I actually think about like all the things that he was accomplished. But that's a whole other thing.
That's we'll do that video.
I'll just end this on like
Palpatine if y'all want to. I'm always down for Star Wars content.
Yeah, so something that I just and I don't even know if I should talk about this on the stream, so I'll leave it here. We'll talk about this off stream.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, damn. Okay, say less. Content kings, man, for real. We do this. Potters. Yeah. Guys, thank you for tuning in. This has been another point of interest video. Again, let us know if you guys like these. We're probably going to continue doing them anyway because these are fun to do. But if you like this topic, what are your thoughts on that of separating the art from the artist? Can you personally do it? Do you know people that have done it, or are you changing your mindset on how that operates? Let us know. Let us know in the description below in the chat or whatever platform you're listening to this on, because this is going to be on pretty much all audio platforms. But again, thank you guys for your support. We hope for your continued support. And this has been the Then and Now podcast. Peace.
Peace.